discussing Haku versus Kimimaru. It's going to be a pretty good versus battle to discuss, and it's going to be, aka Bone Man versus Trans Ice Girl. And it's going to be a pretty interesting video. I've been wanting to do this for a good while, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to be analyzing is the narrative analysis. The reason why this, topic of a versus battle is so intriguing and interesting is the fact that they both have very, very similar narrative. It's practically literally exactly the same. We see Haku basically alone by himself and, with no one, on the verge of starvation and death, and Zabuza takes him into his care and basically exploits and takes advantage of him because, he has a unique bloodline ability and realizes that he has potential for greatness and can be utilized as a very powerful weapon and tool. And this is further substantiated when Haku says his reasoning of why he went with Zabuza to begin with. And he says, I knew and I was forced to accept it. That was the most painful thing, and accepting that I was alone in the world, and so on and so forth. And he even says, I am your weapon, I am your tool. Keep me beside you, strike where you tell me to strike, kill who you tell me to kill. And he says, forgive me, Master Zabuza, your tool has failed you. Like, going so far to obsessive, extreme measures of having a mentality of his value of life just has no meaning whatsoever unless it cannot please Zabuza, because once again he was so tormented by the trauma and the despair of solitude and loneliness and having no one to give him any form of love and affection, that just even getting anything remotely to escape solitude basically conveyed and convinced him that Zabuza is like his god and everything to him, and that's all that he needs to be happy, because Zabuza at least gives him value and existence and meaning in life. And the same thing shown with Kimimaru. We see it when they actually have an interaction in the anime that was pretty goated, and Haku said he has the same eyes as I. And we see this in narrative implication with even Sasuke and Gaara having the same eyes of darkness and solitude and knowing the pain of loneliness and vengeance and whatnot, and to be strong, along with Naruto and Gaara having similarities as well, even with Sasuke too. But Naruto being a Jinchuriki and being able to understand the pain of being alone, etc. And then we even have Gaara who just says he also reminds me of Naruto. And Lee says, just because someone's precious doesn't mean he is good. I can't see how anyone could think someone bad was so precious. And Gaara says, I disagree. Even if you know he's evil, you just can't overcome your own solitude. And they're practically exactly the same. The only other thing you have is Kimimaru when he's in his deathbed with ninja aids. He even says, I may no longer have any value as a vessel, and it is difficult for me to identify my true purpose when I've lost everything. So, like I said, very, very similar. But then it begs the question of who would actually win if these two ninjas with unique bloodline abilities of Haku having the ice style, Kimimaru with the bone style, who would actually take it if they were to interact with each other and fight directly head on. The thing we see is with Haku, where it's stated verbatim that Kakashi says this won't be the last time you see a kid who's both younger than you and stronger than me. So already with a strong narrative verbatim statement of Haku being superior to Part 1 Kakashi, which is very, very impressive, especially when you analyze Kakashi's scaling and him being the number one, in the Konoha when it comes to all the joning and stuff like that, and being very powerful. And there's even a line of consistency within this as well. We even see this with Zabuza reinforcing that notion and basically telling, Kakashi, even by all means, if you defeat me, you still don't have what it takes to kill Haku, you know what I mean? And Haku's more powerful, and since he was a toddler, I've beaten his fighting skills into him. Even in the face of unthinkable adversity, he has always prevailed. He's lost all regard for his own life and become a killing machine, a true shinobi. His skills surpass even my own, things like that. So it's he's above Zabuza, above Kakashi. It's just blatantly stated several times, so on and so forth. And that's basically what you're working with. And this is further reinforced with the Edo Tensei feats that we see with Haku as well, where he's basically blatantly, able to combat against stronger forms of Part 1 characters such as Guy and Kakashi and things like that. So it's just, once again, even the feats are there too. He's able to force his opponents into situations where they can only utilize one hand, to where he could use one hand and use one-handed sign attacks or one-hand jutsu signs, which is very rare. It just goes to show Haku's genius prowess capability as a shinobi, to where only Minato has been able to show this feat in the war arc, and even Sasuke and Boruto was able to do this as well because he's basically forced to at that point. So it's very, very impressive, and even Kakashi and Sasuke were blown away by that. We even see Haku use his famous ice crystal magic mirror technique against Sasuke, to the point where he's able to speed blitz Sasuke over and over and over, and basically Sasuke was practically defenseless and was just getting slammed the entire time. And not only that, I also wanted to go over a common misconception of like people thinking Haku scales to part 1 characters to where they want to go over and be like, oh, Sasuke is beating him up and yada yada and all this stuff. There's actually, context and variables to why that was even happening to begin with. Haku just states several times he does not want to kill Sasuke. He says it even with Naruto, and even Zabuza like calls Haku out on that as well. It literally says if you don't get serious, you're going to die by the person you're willing to spare, and so on and so forth. And then eventually Haku gets serious, and even with the Kyuubi-Naruto interaction, that is when Haku is fatigued and not at full power as well. But as we further analyze Haku, there's a point when Sakura goes to help Sasuke and basically throws a kunai at one of the mirrors from the outside, and Haku is basically forced to grab the kunai and to deal with the attack. So this could give an implication that it's possible that basically the ice mirrors have weak points from the outside, and something as weak as a kunai being thrown from Sakura can be able to deal with it. So it's not really a good look for Haku, but regardless whether we can't really prove that definitively, but it is at least implied that it's the case. And we see Haku being able to match Zabuza's speed with throwing shurikens at Naruto, where he's able to save Naruto's life and basically ask him to let him fight him on his own accords. It's also stated that Haku can be able to use doppelgangers and basically move within the mirrors and strike simultaneously. So he's also able to use, shadow clones, or water clones and things like that within the ice mirrors as well. His ice mirrors could even be able to tank a fire style from Sasuke, a fireball technique, and literally just says the pitiful flame will barely touch my mirror. So there's an implication that as long as if the fire style is strong enough, that it could definitely be able to do some damage. He says the technique he's using is part of the art of teleportation. The only tool I need to perform, it's the mirrors that hold my image. I move so quickly that the pair of you might as well be standing still. And as he's utilizing the technique and spamming the art of teleportation, basically there even becomes a point in time to where basically he's like starts to get fatigued heavily, to where part 1 Sasuke without a shotgun is able to perceive him and react accordingly, target him, and land attacks, and is gaining speed to catch up to his own moves. And even Haku just like flat out says like, I cannot continue the fight to continue to go on. If it does, I will lose. My own art forces me to expend a great deal of chakra, so it's a limit of how long I can go with using the art of teleportation. I can't let this fight go on. And this is even when Sasuke has 1 Tomo and 2 Tomo shotgun, and is able to even perform even better and be more dominant against Haku. And there's even further a substantiation from Sakura saying that Masked Boy is even more powerful than even Master Kakashi. Even he can't win. Forgot to mention that as well, but that's also, stated as well. Kyuubi-Naruto, where Kyuubi-Naruto is basically able to dominate Haku, and Haku like goes to strike him and whatnot. Like he throws his needles, he can deflect Haku's needles with his chakra. When the needles hit Naruto, Naruto just releases it from his body and heals instantly. Naruto can also be able to catch Haku before he can get back into his mirrors, and then force him to be able to succumb to a almost fatal blow, be punched directly in the face and through the mirrors as well by Kyuubi-Naruto. And when Haku is basically about to be killed by base Naruto because he was willing to let him kill him because he felt like he had no value since he lost the fight, he's able to detect danger to Zabuza and is able to use his ice mirror technique and deal with base Naruto effortlessly, and then travel instantaneous to be able to deal with part 1 Raikiri Kakashi and be able to take the blow. And once again, this feat is actually very important because there's a common misconception of people thinking Haku can actually basically be like at the speed of light because it's stated within the data book that he travels at the speed of light. But this is only when he's traveling through the mirrors, and it just makes sense. We do know science is in Naruto as well, and when we actually understand and comprehend mirrors, mirrors literally show reflections at the speed of light. That's just how it works for science. And so obviously that would mean for Haku's only moving at the speed of light when he's traveling through the mirrors and reflecting his image, not when he's actually attacking coming out of the mirrors or when he's trying to respond to someone's attack. And it's blatantly shown because he gets speed blitzed by part 1 Kakashi. He even gets speed blitzed by Warrior Kakashi as well while at full power. At this moment he's not at full power, but the same happens when he's at full power as well. And Haku's able to show using Ice Style for defense and offense capabilities in the War Arc, where he could use a big ball of Ice Style to protect Zabuza and himself. He's also able to travel in the sky and be able to target Sai, so basically his mobility is actually very impressive and he can attack from anywhere on the ground or in the sky. The only problem with using the Ice Mirror technique is unfortunately it gives everyone a spidey sense where they're able to be like cold air and detect that it's more colder, and it allows them to give them time to be able to react to the attack accordingly, and Sai was able to at least react and block the needles that Haku throws at him and avoid a fatal blow. And when Sai's on the ground along with other ninja, they all go to strike at them at full speed. This is, Haku moves out of the ice mirror going at full speed, and What's really funny about this is Haku's moving at the same exact speed as Zabuza and all the other people. He's moving at the same speed as the Bloodline users or Genkai users, while using the Ice Mirror. So it's like really funny. It just goes to show once again he doesn't retain the speed of light. He's not on the level of like KCM, Naruto, or Minato, or even the Raikage. And literally Guy and Kakashi are able to stop their attacks and basically deal with them accordingly. Guy is able to, it's either Guy or Lee that's able to stop Haku's attack, and Kakashi stops Zabuza. Then we see Haku try to attack with the Ice Mirrors again, moving at full speed, and then eventually Guy and Lee are able to stop her and deal with her effortlessly while during the hit and miss technique as well. So furthermore, just proving Haku's not at the speed of light at all times, because we do know only characters like Minato, the Raikage, and even KCM Naruto are obviously beyond Guy and Kakashi and Lee, etc. That's all you really have for Haku's scaling, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be getting into KIMIMARO now, and I'm just going to say this right now. I'm just a spoiler warning. KIMIMARO is a freaking GOAT, and he's a beast. He's basically the upgrade version of Haku. Like, I'm really not trying to be like that guy. I'm trying to be as fair as possible and transparent, but he really is. Like, we even see it through the narrative implication that, like, Zabuza is the one that brings Haku in. You know, a Jonin, right? You know, and then we see basically a legendary Sonin, someone that's mid-Kage level that can be able to fight against Hiruzen, things like that, you name it, or just a legendary reputation and status of power, and to even be above the legendary swordsman as well. It's also even stated for him to be above. So it's like we see Kakashi, Guy, and all these people struggling with the legendary swordsman, and even struggling with Bloodline Genkai users. And then we see, you know, KIMIMARO being taken on by a Sonin, a mid-Kage level. Because we know Kakashi and Guy are low Kage level bare minimum, but they're not mid-Kage level. And it's further reinforced with the feats and statements that KIMIMARO even has as well, to where KIMIMARO is able to fight against KCM, Shadow Clone of Naruto, and be able to dodge a Rising Shuriken that's thrown, and be able to escape the blast as well. And even in the manga, it's shown to he's able to kill a bunch of samurai, and then basically KCM Naruto arrives with a Rising Shuriken and says things have changed, KIMIMARO. And it's really impressive, because the fact that Naruto has to use a Rising Shuriken instead of a Rising Gon goes to show that that's how powerful KIMIMARO would be, and that's probably what he thinks would be enough to be able to deal with KIMIMARO's durability potential. And KIMIMARO even acknowledges his power and says, you know, I can tell time has passed, but looking at you, it seems you've grown with other than just height, saying that Naruto clearly has gotten stronger. And furthermore, there's even a narrative, like, illustration and comparison of, like, where Naruto comes to save Kakashi, Guy, and all these people, you know what I mean, as he's, like, the major reinforcement. And it did make sense. Like, in KCM Naruto was shown in the entire war to backpack the war and spam shadow clones to be able to just no-diff people, or low-diff even, like, mid-Kage level people. And the reason why this is important is because KIMIMARO was able to either survive an encounter with KCM Naruto, or he was able to defeat KCM Naruto, Shadow Clone. And the reason why we know this is because when Itachi releases Edo Tensei, basically he's still remaining, him and Chio, so blatantly proving that they were not taken down and sealed. And every time KCM Naruto interacted with anyone, he either no-diffed or low-diffed them, and they got sealed immediately. But further, and the reason why that's important is because that connects to even mid-Kage people like Inoki and the second Tsuchikage, because KCM Naruto was able to combat against the third Raikage, fight against the second Tsuchikage, and low-diff him as well, while that who is equal to Inoki, the third Tsuchikage, which connects to the other Kages, on top of it with also Tsunade as being a legendary Sonin. Then we also see KIMIMARO be granted the Earth Curse Mark, which is a rival to the Heaven Curse Mark that Sasuke has, and when he obtains it, he doesn't scream, he's not in pain or anything like that, he doesn't even go into a coma, even the 2% rate of survival doesn't even apply to KIMIMARO. He just takes it like a champ and is like, thanks dad, appreciate the birthday present, and then fights the Sound 4 right after, beats them all up, you know, and he does use the curse mark, but that was more of him just flexing, saying, hey, you're not special, I have it too. Same thing is that thing that Saikon did against Sasuke, and that's just further reinforced with all the statements and feats that KIMIMARO has, because we do know the Sound 4 scaled to low tier Jonin in Konoha, where they're not even at full power. They had no chakra and were very fatigued, and they struggled to them and were basically relative in CM1, and then basically had to go to CM2 in order to defeat those 2-level Jonin, which are nowhere near mid Jonin like Asuma and Kurenai, and nowhere near high tier Jonin like Kakashi and Guy and things like that. So once again, KIMIMARO is blatantly over the Sound 4, so don't be weird on that either. You know, regardless of the anime feats, but the manga, there's just several statements and feats as well. We also see with KIMIMARO as a kid, where he's very impressive as well, where he's able to fight against the Hit and Miss Village, a military nation Mind you, not like some, random village or waterfall or hidden whatever. No, a nation, a military nation, like that going against either the United States or Russia, basically. Fight against all the Chunin and joining there and survive and use his bloodline ability and defeat them all and then run away, which is also very, very impressive. And that's just when he's a little kid, remind you. And as we furthermore get into part one for KIMIMARU, there's even while he's nerfed and sick and not even at full power, he's also stated by Kabuto to be like that nobody can beat him still. Okay, he's also, even said by Spider-Man that Neji is the first to drive me this far since KIMIMARU while he's on the verge of death. So there's that as well. And then we even have like the statement where KIMIMARU says, I won't kill you to the Flute Girl so you can fulfill your mission. We see even the Flute Girl be able to dominate base Naruto. And then we see KIMIMARU be able to speed blitz and be completely beyond base Naruto and Shikamaru as well to get the barrel and everything, you name it. And then even Kabuto says we have to use KIMIMARU to go retrieve Sasuke and to succeed in the mission to make sure Orochimaru doesn't die. So once again, there's just so much evidence to place KIMIMARU above all these characters and even the Sound 4 while sick, remind you, not even at prime. And furthermore, to substantiate KIMIMARU being basically mid-Kage level, they even say that if KIMIMARU had not been ill, the Kage's assassination would have gone smoothly, and basically they would have been able to low diff heroes in or no diff heroes in potentially, which is a very big deal. And Orochimaru even says, I think of having lost him, my skin crawls. He was still the one I wish truly in my heart to be, the one I absorbed with my body. We also see KIMIMARU fight against Kyuubi Naruto with a mental amp, and Kyuubi Naruto uses 2,000 plus shadow clones and literally stacks a chakra cloak on top of it. And base KIMIMARU is able to deal with him effortlessly. He's able to take a bone out of his body and heal instantly as well. Even Naruto comments on that and says his wounds healed. This man has regeneration abilities, which is ridiculous. He can use his bloodline ability to attack from anywhere in his body as well. He deals with all the clones, and then even Naruto says this guy is super strong, and then like he never says that about Sasuke, about anyone else. He says that only about KIMIMARU, okay? We then eventually see Lee versus KIMIMARU in base, but basically loses. We then see Drunken Fist Lee being able to beat up KIMIMARU, and he's forced to use the curse mark. But then once KIMIMARU uses the curse mark, he's able to beat up Lee. And then same thing happens with the first gate. He's forced to use curse mark with the first gate as well. And it's just stated like several times. He said, I can't read his moves. He hit me, that tied you to something else. He even says, I'm left with no choice, and starts using the curse mark as well. He even says before, that he's too hard to predict and moreover too fast. So once again, like, I'm sorry, but base KIMIMARU, he does get beat up by Drunken Fist Lee, and first gate Lee is more superior to base KIMIMARU as well. But we do have all that as well. And KIMIMARU is able to speed blitz Drunken Fist Lee and stop first gate Lee with jutsu activation with the curse mark. So there's that into consideration as well. And this Lee is less sharper and less faster than when he was in the tuning exam, so there's that too. But other than that, it's still very impressive. And then we eventually see KIMIMARU fight against Gaara, where he's able to be in curse mark as well, partial transformation with CM1, and shoot a bunch of bones, like have range attacks to shoot bone bullets basically. And then he starts fighting Gaara in base, and he's able to dodge multiple attacks from Gaara. He even acknowledges and says the sand defends him like a reef. This man is no melee fighter. Approach I see would not be an easy task. And they start fighting whatever you name and exchanging blows. Gaara does eventually get him and crushes him. And then KIMIMARU is forced to go into CM1, which has insane durability feat, where he says that pressure was a feat. Nothing. This layer I created underneath my skin, I would have been dead for sure. Underestimated you, yet your sand won't hold me twice. And then Gaara is forced to use the Sand Tsunami to deal with CM1 KIMIMARU, because we do know with the curse mark you get faster and stronger with CM1, and even CM2 is a 10 times multiplier as well. And when he gets hit by the Sand Tsunami and then hit by Gaara's attack as well, which is even a stronger force of attack, he has to go to CM2. He crawls out of the sand and can't even be held, charges through a big wall of sand. Basically, his whole body is a fucking running Chidori, okay? Goes through the sand, hits Gaara, injures his sand armor. He would have made Gaara even bleed if it wasn't for the sand wall, because the sand wall cushioned his blow and deaccelerated his speed and momentum and force of power. And then he basically is able to speed blitz Gaara, but Gaara's jutsu activation sand can be able to at least defend him and keep up, and he goes to use his big drill move, bone spear move, which is so badass and crazy looking. And he would have killed Gaara, but Gaara was able to activate his strongest defense jutsu that's stated verbatim in the manga, and also stated in the data books as well to be his strongest defense jutsu. Not only that, Lee also just flat out says that this Gaara is like way more stronger than when he was during the tuning exams. Like he says, wow, what a guy. He's even stronger when I fought him, which is go to preliminary and to the final exams, because Lee sees him fight against Sasuke as well. So this is a way stronger Gaara, mind you, and Kimimaro is just bullying this man. And because he used his sand shield, that's why it stopped Kimimaro's attack, but Kimimaro's attack still did very impressive damage. Then Gaara brings him under the ground, and he says, you are a formidable opponent, okay, and acknowledging Gaara's power. Then Kimimaro responds with an all-out, like so many barrage attacks from bone spikes coming out of the ground, where Gaara was forced to fly in the air in order to avoid them all. And literally, there's bones everywhere. Like, you can't even take a single step, you know what I mean? So it's pretty freaking crazy. Like, you would literally either need to be able to fly or be able to get in the air to avoid this attack. Kimimaro can literally transport his body through the bones and teleport anywhere and cannot be detected, and can attack from blind spots or attack you from anywhere, which is also really freaking crazy strong. And Gaara and Lee basically would have died, but you know, then his sickness came through and he basically died. So that's basically what everything you have through their feats and statements and whatnot. So overall, who wins the fight? At the end of the day, it's very straightforward, unfortunately. When it comes to scaling, Kimimaro just outright scales over Haku. Haku is consistently shown to be able to go against low Kage opponents, maximum in Jonings as well. And that's kind of where Haku has a hard time in dealing with opponents, you name it. And it's even defeated by low Kage people, okay? While Kimimaro can be able to be fighting against mid Kage people, which is Legendary Sonin, Hiruzen, and things like that. And you could even argue he's even around high Kage level due to his KCM feats against Naruto as well. And regardless of all of that, it's just, once again, he would just blatantly scale over. And that's kind of all what you're working with. And even if you thought they were in similar scaling, it still doesn't work, because Kimimaro just has, even if he gets injured, he has healing regeneration. And then his durability is also just insanely powerful. Like, his durability is absolutely crazy. There's even a statement where Orochimaru says with his bloodline ability that basically all, any physical attacks just can't do anything. A defense skill to fend physical blows of any form, those strong, firm bones. Who could resist like his bloodline ability, So it's like, Kimimaro is very, very strong. Like, I don't even think there's anything Haku remotely could do with the needles or anything like that. The best thing you could argue is Haku's like ice style AP, maybe potentially, but it's still just like, I don't know, so like, for one, he more than likely can't even get through his durability, and we know Haku has no durability feats, and bare minimum, at least with scaling, Haku's durability feats could only probably be able to be effective against, his own like level of scaling, and things like that, while Kimimaro can be able to deal with, crazy amounts of pressure enforced by Gaara, sand barrels, you name it, etc. We know how much like ridiculous amount of chakra Gaara has as well, and chakra equates to power as well. And then not only that, like, his bodies basically could be able to withstand even things like Chidori based upon the statement from Orochimaru. So overall, it just doesn't look good for Haku, unfortunately. It really does look really bad. And especially if it comes to who can outlast who, Kimimaro takes that by like so far. Like, Kimimaro is able to literally travel from like the Lightning Nation to talk with Jugo, travel all the way to the Hidden Leaf Nation, to the Fire Nation, get to the forest, get Sasuke, go all the way through, fight against Kyuubi Naruto, fight against Lee, fight against Gaara. It's like, come on. Like, it's very obvious who has better stamina and chakra, and he even has Sage Mode transformation, which makes him more powerful. 10 times the amp with CM2, etc. CM1 makes him faster, stronger, you name it, etc. as well. And that also rejuvenates the body, because that's just how nature transformation works. The curse mark is literally just an artificial form of Sage Mode. So you have that as well to begin with. It's just stated several times. He basically has Senso Beams, is what I'm saying. While Haku, we see blatantly in part 1, he literally has horrible stamina and chakra reserves, to where if he starts spamming his teleportation technique or having a very contentious fight with someone, he literally starts scaling to part 1 characters, like Kid Sasuke and Kyuubi Naruto in the beginning. And even with the Kyuubi Naruto interaction in comparison, is also really bad, because it's also stated several times that whenever the Nine Tails chakra comes out of Naruto, basically, it's like, at the end of the day, like, the seal weakens, and he has access to more Nine Tails chakra, and he's able to use more tails, etc. in transformation. So meaning that if that's the first Kyuubi Naruto transformation, that would be the weakest form that is ever shown at the beginning of the series, while Kimimaro fights a way more stronger form, because Naruto has utilized the Nine Tails chakra so many times all the way up to this point. So there's even that as well, which makes it look really bad for Haku, and then most importantly, the most contentious fight would be sick Kimimaro against Haku, to where basically the best arguments for Haku is his feats, to where you could say, you know, Haku is beyond, you know, Kakashi and all the Jonin, whatever, blah, blah. So therefore, if Kimimaro is blatantly shown to be scaling to Lee and, you know, and to Naruto and things like that, whatever, blah, blah, and even Gaara, then therefore, like, you know, Haku should just be able to speed blitz in one shot. You know, and then not only that, like, if you take the anime even more into consideration, this same Gaara, technically a stronger Gaara because more time passes, basically gets, like, beat up in low diff by Anbu from the Hidden Mist Village, where they're spamming water style juice to negate his sand and whatnot, and then basically just beat him up, and he was captured. And so you have that, and that's by Anbu level ninja, which are basically either Jonin or low Kage level. So you have that as well. But if you don't want to take that into consideration, either way, you could just have basically, you know, Haku's over these characters while Kimimaro not, while sick. But there are also arguments for Kimimaro still. It's more statements oriented, to where Kimimaro would just mainly be focused upon the manga statement and the anime statement, where Kabuto just says nobody can beat Kimimaro and nobody would be able to stop him, and the mission will be successful. So that would still include Jiraiya Sasanin, Tsunade, all the Jonins, Zamen, etc. So that means, like, Kabuto thinks Kimimaro still scales that high and effective, so meaning he would still be mid Kage level, which is way beyond anything Haku's been shown to be able to demonstrate and do. So at that point in time, like, it's just, unfortunately, like, it still looks good for Kimimaro. You know what I mean? It's, you know, and also there's another thing as well. This came up from shout out to Ken Rock, but Ken Rock said you could also make arguments that when the Edo Tenseis come back, that Kabuto is possibly amping them. Now, I don't really think it's necessarily the case. I think it's too contentious to confirm whether that's the case or not, because all it's really stated verbatim is that it's used to increase the binding strength to control the Edo Tenseis, so they're not able to disrupt the process and, like, their soul escape, or so Kabuto is able to control them way more firmly and tighter. You know, but if you go on the logic of, like, oh, it's using the curse mark, you know what I mean, using the Orochimaru's chart, whatever, blah, blah, and therefore it should be amping them in some regard, I guess, you know, but at the end of the day, I just feel like we just don't have enough. We don't have any other statements to conclude that. It's more of just possibility and things like that, and all we do know objectively stating it verbatim is that it's just, you know, to increase the binding, and that's all. So regardless, either way, if that does go through, that means it's even worse for Haku, and then that means Haku would just only be superior to Part 1 Kakashi and things like that. You know, and that's very, very low in scaling. So, no matter what, you know, and the reason why that's relevant is because we see Part 1 Kakashi get absolutely, you know, decimated by people like Orochimaru. Nowhere near here is in as well, yada yada. There you go. You know, so it's just, at the end of the day, it's really, really bad, you know, and that's kind of all you have. Other than that, there's really nothing more that you can say for this fight. You know, you do have their kid versions as well, but if you take the anime and manga, Kimimaro would definitely be way more superior because Haku doesn't have anything, while Kimimaro has crazy feats fighting a military nation. If you take away the anime, then you could give that to Haku based upon the statements Zabuza says of training him as a kid, you name it, and there you go, and that would go to Haku. And that's basically about it. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe for more content, subscribe if you guys love the channel, and as always guys, there'll be plenty more.